on, welcome to the live. How are we all doing? Chelsea are potentially in a top four race. I can't believe it. I can't believe it, guys. Welcome in, welcome in. How are we all doing? Look, guys, honestly, I did not see this coming. I'll sit here and hold my hands up. Chelsea are currently in a difficult position right now. I didn't see it coming. Did not see it coming. Chelsea obviously struggling for form. Teams around Chelsea are causing us issues. Look, I'm gonna go straight into it. I'm gonna get the Premier League table up and assess where Chelsea are at, because we're waking up this morning to the news that Chelsea are 5th in the Premier League. We've obviously got City breathing down our necks, Villa breathing down our necks from below us. We've got teams above us in Forest and in Newcastle that we probably didn't see coming, to be honest with you, this season. And obviously we've got the likes of Tottenham who have fallen all the way down into the bottom half of the table as well. But Liverpool and Arsenal, for me, they're looking like two teams that are going to start to pull away a little bit at the top. I know the form might suggest otherwise, but for me, I just think that Liverpool and Arsenal probably look like the two teams capable of doing something this season. So, look, welcome in to everyone coming in from LBs as well. Good to see all of you guys here. Big up, Solomon. How are we doing? Adam, Caribbean Racer says we want our lad back. Look, I'm going to be real. Chelsea can't afford to get rid of Cole Palmer right now. We can't afford to do it. I'm going to be honest. If Chelsea didn't have Cole Palmer, I don't know where we'd be right now. I don't know. It's really, really concerning for me. Pitsy, how we doing, my man? Welcome in. Indigo, we can't drop 5 points to mid-table or bottom half teams and expect to stay in the top 4. We deserve to be where we are, and if we continue dropping easy points, we are going to end up bottom half. And you know what? That's so important, because if we quickly look at the matches that we've had in recent weeks, I'm going to just swing it over. Give me 2 secs. Right, so let's have a look at where Chelsea have been in recent weeks, because, bear with me. So Brentford was the last win Chelsea had of the Prem, and we were 2-1. We had a man sent off, obviously. What was that, late on in the game or like afterwards? Yeah, Mark Cucurella after the game, right? Diabolical. But that was a game where I actually thought we'd where's it gone? What? Why is this frozen? Brilliant. I actually thought we turned a corner, because against Brentford, that's a bogey team for Chelsea, I think, in recent years. And we actually managed to win that 2-1. And I thought, right, we've beaten Brentford. These are the teams we struggle against. Can we go and do something else? Can we go and push on from here? We then obviously rotated against Shamrock Rovers, scored a lot of goals, and that's the last kind of time that everyone in the squad was probably happy, because Everton come around. It was a difficult game. The conditions were rubbish, if you'll remember, and we really weren't that good. But then the rotation started getting a bit confusing. We didn't make substitutions in this game that were good enough. We struggled in that game against Everton to try and look like a team that were good enough to go and win that. And on from there, that's when Maresca stopped rotating the players that were playing in the Conference League, and I think they thought they all might get a chance to play in the Prem, and it didn't really transpire that way. I think Ipswich was the next game where a number of them got a chance, and they arguably let Maresca down. The Fulham game is where I want to focus, though, because I think you can swing that Everton result as a good or bad result away up to Goodison in the way that that result was, with the weather and it just not being a game for this Chelsea team. If you look at Fulham, I mean, that was a game where Marco Silva absolutely took the game away from Maresca. And that was one of the first games where I thought Maresca himself probably lost the battle as a manager. Because even against Daishi, I didn't think he did. But against Fulham, Marco Silva absolutely switched it up. He second half, I mean, what he did with Iwobi and Anthony Robertson caused Maresca so many issues. If you remember, it was Neto dropping back, and it was just diabolical that we weren't coping with what was happening in front of us against Fulham. And since then, I just think we've been spiraling a little bit. And every week I've been saying, this has to stop, this has to stop. Ipswich comes around, and you think, right, Ipswich, they've barely won a game in the Prem. And then, ultimately, they play Chelsea, and they almost win it with ease. And people will say, oh, no, it was the ref and Delap's penalty. And all right, yeah, it shouldn't have been a penalty, but Chelsea did nothing in the way of scoring goals. And that was when I think we started to look like a team that really had issues going forward in terms of scoring goals. And I look at it, and I look at Everton, and I look at Fulham, and I look at that Ipswich game, and I think that's 3 games there where we were really limited in front of goal, and even Palace as well. The main sort of pattern that was emerging throughout those games was that Nicholas Jackson was in a real bad patch of form, and even off the ball, I don't think he looked that good. Where his link up and his dribbling normally looks okay, that was starting to look like a bit of a cause for concern as well. The Ipswich game, he rotated Maresca. He played a number of players that would have played in the Conference League, and I think that was where, as Chelsea fans, we sort of looked at it and went, wow, our squad is big, but the quality, there's a cause for concern there. Something isn't right with the quality of Chelsea's players in terms of Dewsbury Hall, João Felix. Let's look at this Ipswich game. Look at the lineup. Look who we brought on. Obviously, we brought on Jackson, Neto, Gusto, Sancho. They're all players that are pretty much starting week in, week out. Players like Nkunku, Felix, Madueke, even Tosin, Dazassi, Jorgensen in goal. They were players that Maresca wanted to see if he could trust, and he couldn't, because they just showed they weren't good enough. And then obviously we've played, if this wants to load properly, where are we going? Are we going too far back? We've then played, why is it doing this? Nice. We've then played Palace, which was another game that, I mean, realistically, actually, Maresca got the team playing better football, I think. The Ipswich game was as low as it got, and then I think the Palace game was a bit better. And I think you could see that the football was there, but again, we were lacking any real clinical person in front of goal. And obviously, we saw Cole Palmer score. I mean, if you look throughout these games, the goal against Fulham is an absolute joke. That Palace goal was decent. The goal last night, 2 nights ago from Cole Palmer is fantastic. If it wasn't for him, like I was saying, that Chelsea managers and the squad have been bailed out so many times by Cole Palmer. It is an absolute joke. And that's why when I say I don't know where Chelsea would be without him, I genuinely don't. I genuinely don't know where he would be, where we would be. Because, I mean, it's got to that stage again where I actually didn't think we'd see it happen. But Chelsea are struggling. To get good enough results. Someone said in the Championship we didn't have Cole Palmer. I think we're going to have to go through a dip in form. All teams go through a dip. Don't think we are being played off the park in any of the last 5 games. Solomon, I'd probably hear you on that. And I think actually, bar the Ipswich game where we had a lot of control and just really didn't look at it in terms of scoring goals, and probably Palace for a bit, Bournemouth for a bit, we've actually played all right. But I look at that Fulham game, and I think that Fulham game was a game where we were really poor. And I think the second half against Bournemouth, I actually think Chelsea weren't great. I don't think we were. Tommy, let's see what you say, right? Because I can see you're causing a little bit of uproar in the chat. The equilibrium in the squad is disrupted. Players not getting game time. They think they should be getting poor attitudes all over. Look, I don't know if that's the case. I feel like that's almost a little bit harsh on a few players. I don't think they're really not trying. I think some of them, though, are probably not looking good enough. Yeah, no, Solomon, by the way, that's stat 0 goals from 8.5 XG in the last 6 games. Jackson's got unlucky, man. I think he's got unlucky, and I think his form dipped at a time when Chelsea really needed him to be on form. Because I think as we were sort of making mistakes as a team, Jackson could have sort of carried us through it if he'd been able to score goals. His form dropped at the same time, which obviously has caused us some issues. We had the chance to keep Vivell and get Nagelsmann, but we decided to stay with Lawrence Stewart. Tommy, should he play players that aren't good enough? Look, to not play players is hard because what Maresca's trying to do is keep this squad all on a page of working together and being happy. And I can see him trying to do that. And he's done a good job, but we kept saying that rotating an 11 is not sustainable. And we obviously saw that we come round to these Premier League fixtures where we needed to rotate with FA Cup and just a week in, week out games where it was like 3 days between each game. And we saw that the rotation wasn't going to be as much as what it was. And that's where we saw a real sort of decline in this team, I think that's where we saw the issues. But I believe Chelsea can turn a corner. But let's look, first of all, obviously we've got Wolves on Monday. We've got a bit of a gap now. It's nearly a week's gap. Heavy rotating does kill momentum. I think it does. And I think we saw at a point earlier on in the season as well, when we were rotating off the back of Conference League games and players had a week off, actually it was causing some issues. And I look at Newcastle United and I think that's a team that before the festive fixture list come up, right? Newcastle weren't managing unbelievably. Like they weren't coping with the Premier League, to be honest with you. Everyone was like, Newcastle aren't doing what they should be doing. This is a team that probably have good enough players to be above where they are. When the fixture list got going for Newcastle and they were constantly playing games, their form literally increased ridiculously. And now they're finding themselves sat 4th, right? And this is what I'm saying. When the fixtures got tough for Chelsea and it was won every couple of weeks, or every couple of days, in a week, our results literally fell off a cliff. Like they really did. But I think we need to look at something else here because ultimately not a lot's changing. And I think Chelsea are at a stage now where we need to change some stuff up. And this is where I think the sporting directors have to go and get busy. There's a lot of pressure on the sporting directors now, a lot. Because not only have the sporting directors hired multiple managers and we're not really sure of what's going on there, we are now at a stage where realistically the sporting directors have also brought in a lot of players that are now potentially being deemed not good enough or an issue, or Maresca doesn't fancy them, or they're going to be moved on for profit. And I think Chelsea fans don't really know where the club's at. And I think a lot of Chelsea fans aren't really that happy with what the sporting directors have been doing. And I think that's where, as a fan base, we actually have to direct our frustration, because as much as we might get frustrated with Jackson or we might get frustrated with Maresca, and it is annoying at the time, realistically, these problems could be not alleviated, but made a lot easier if the sporting directors were putting everyone on the same page and giving us a clear direction. And I don't care how you dress it up, I don't think anyone is on the same page, because you can't be bringing in 3 or 4 players in a summer transfer window, and then by the time you get to January, they're all suddenly being linked with a move away. We can talk about Dewsbury Hall. We can talk about now Tosin being linked with a move to Brighton. We can talk with Vega apparently not necessarily happy being at Chelsea right now because of his playing position. I mean, what happened there in the summer when they had conversations about the player coming into Chelsea? They must have just forgot the whole part about being in the team and where he might play. And this is where I wonder if the sporting directors are really starting to show that their track record of not having any success might actually be a real issue. Dewsbury Hall cost 30 to 40 million. Vega again, another 15. That's the best part of like nearly 50 million on players in the summer that already might be on their way out within 6 months. Tosin potentially here for clear profit. At what point do we start looking at the sporting directors and saying, you're not doing a good enough job, because you've had quite some time now to spend a lot of money to establish a really, really good team. And are you doing enough? Yes, you've bought in Neto and Sancho, but what a waste on the other 3 players if they're not going to be here within 6 months. And I don't think that's viable, because only one of them could potentially be turned for profit in Tosin. Vega, no one wants to pay the asking price, so it looks like it will probably be a loan unless they make like 5 mil and someone pays 20. So this is Vastor. This is the 4th. You're bang on. And this is where I have an issue, that after 4 transfer windows, right? How on earth has another striker not been bought in? I don't think Nkunku was bought in as a striker. And if he was, I mean, whoever did that should be sacked, because Nkunku is not an out-and-out striker. There's rumours he's going to be on his way out as well. The amount of money these sporting directors have actually spent is crazy on the amount of players that are ultimately failing or haven't lived up to the expectations at Chelsea. I dropped a video the other day on the channel of why Chelsea are buying so many players. And I just went through it all. And the amount of misses that the sporting directors have bought is just crazy. It's not good, guys. It really isn't. Chelsea are in talks to sign Adeyemi from Dortmund in the summer. See, that, for me, that's not exciting. That is not exciting. And Nkunku was under Roman. I think it was under Bowley. I think it was under Bowley and Vivell. If it was under Roman, fair enough, but I don't think it was. You might be right, Matt. I'm not sure, but there is a number of players that have come in, obviously under Bowley, under this new ownership, that haven't been good enough. Whether or not it's the current sporting directors who have been there for a while, but they had to get their feet in the door. There's a number of players that are a bit of a concern for me. And look, recalling Trevor Chalobah just kind of shows what we're dealing with these sporting directors. The way they treated Trevor in the summer was diabolical. It was out of order. It wasn't right. The fact that they've then gone crawling back to him to say, look, do you fancy coming back because we feel like we need you now? Yeah, if I was Trev, I think I would have been thinking about yes or no in that, to be honest. But I agree, Vastor. I think it's more misses than hits. Actually, should we do a hit or miss? Should we do a hit or miss and count? I'll get up the transfers in and we'll do a hit or miss. Let's do it. Give me 2 secs. Let's actually do that. That could be quite good. Let's do it. Right, we'll do a hit or miss. Let me load it up. I have to get up probably transfer market. If I get up transfer market and we do hit or miss, that could actually be quite good. See how many of our players have actually been decent for Chelsea. Because I think under the current sporting directors, I mean, does anyone have a list of, because that could be better. Wait, hang on. Let me see if I can find a list. Should we do it? That'll be good, you know. And Nkunku was, I think Nkunku was Vivell, and then Nkunku got injured, didn't he, really? I think. Someone let me know on that. I will check. But I don't think there's going to be a list, so I'm just going to go transfer market and just look at incomings. Okay. So. Oh, wow. This is ridiculous. Let's do show 22-23 season. I think that's probably when it was. And we'll go... Yeah, right. This is it. This is... Oh, my gosh. The names on here. The names on here. Right. Okay. We have to fill it out because there's some names on here that are a bit in and out here. Like, some of them are the new ownership, some of them aren't, because it was obviously a season that was mixed a bit. Let's have a look at hits or miss, shall we? Hits or miss for the cut. Right, let's actually do this. This is Chelsea's incomings and outgoings under the current sporting directors and the new ownership, Clearlake, because it could be a little bit mix and match between the two. When Todd Bowley put himself in the hot seat and when we've seen the likes of Stuart Whitstanley and also Vavell that was hired by the new ownership. These are players that have come in and out. We're going to run through who's a hit or a miss to see whether we've signed more players that are actually better for Chelsea, or we've signed more players that have just been a bit of a disaster and actually put us in not necessarily a better position, right? That's what we're going to do. So here we go. First up, let me get that there so we can see it, right? We're on the transfer market. We have seen, where do we go? This is this squad? We don't really want that. We want transfers, all transfers. Bang. Here we go. This is it. This is it. Arrivals and departures 22-23. Enzo Fernandez, right? I need you guys to keep count with me because I'm not going to be able to read through all of them and keep count, right? It's going to be less than 5 hits. This is only hitting this window is cuckoo. Right, so this is the famed first transfer window under Todd Boehly. This one could be funny, man. This one could be funny because we spent a lot of money under this guy. And you know what? Part of me thinks, yeah, I'm not even lying. I'll tell you what. There was a part of Todd Boehly that wanted to go and sign big names. Big names. And unfortunately, the big names didn't work out. And I think now we're suffering and we won't sign big names because they're scared about this window. But this is what happens when you don't know anything about football and you sign big names that aren't the right profile for your squad because you don't know who your manager's going to be. Anyway, Enzo Fernandez, Benfica. I think we can now say hit, but it cost a lot of money, 121 million. And I also think, right, it's taken a long time to be able to say hit. But you can't deny it. This season, Enzo's actually been all right. Since one of the international breaks and he came back, I think he's been all right. Wesley Fofana, I'm going to say it's a miss, guys, because I think the injuries for 80 million, we've barely seen this guy play. We've barely seen this guy play. I think he's looked okay when he's played, but you can't spend 80 million on a player that you just don't see. I like Fofana. Are we saying hit? Oh, I don't know. I think it's a miss. I really do, because I think for 80 million, you could have gone and signed. You probably could have gone and signed someone else. So let's say miss. So we've got 1-1 at the moment. Okay. Mudryk. Guys, Mudryk's a miss. Because he actually has only looked good in probably 10 games for Chelsea. And what's he played now? A lot. He cost 70 million, obviously, in the January. And it was a signing that got a lot of us hyped up. And I think we've remained hyped on Mudryk. But, yeah, miss. 70 million euros. This is all in euros, but another miss, right? So it's 2-1 to miss. Yep, look at you guys. Miss, crazy miss, big miss. Mudryk is a total miss. Massive miss. It's clear. Wes Fofana is a total miss. He had an injury from Leicester. No, it's true. When you look at Wesley Fofana's injury history and the fact that it's only got worse since it's been at Chelsea, to spend 80 million on that, it just seems crazy. Mark Cucurella. First season, Mark Cucurella under Potter and everything going on, miss. From Pochettino in the League Cup, maybe, and he played right back. Onwards from there, unreal, right? I think Cucurella can go down as a hit. So I think we've got 2-2. Enzo Fernandez is probably just saving as a hit. So yeah, 2-2. Raheem Sterling. The money on these players, by the way, 121 million, 80 million, 70 million, 65 million. Raheem Sterling, 56 million. Raheem Sterling is obviously a miss. Obviously. 3-2 to miss. Diabolical. One of the worst signings I've seen for what I thought that player was going to be. The level I thought Raheem Sterling was going to be at. This wasn't potential. This was proven. Oh my gosh, the decline of him, even at Arsenal now, obviously on loan. He's still obviously half on our books, but you remember that? Do you remember the free kick Do you remember Sterling's free kick? And he missed it and it went up almost over the shed. That is how big of a miss Raheem Sterling has been for Chelsea. It can literally be measured on his own performance with his own miss. So it's 3-2 to miss right now. Kalidou Koulibaly, 40 million. No, mate, Raheem Sterling's quotes, by the way, before he went to Arsenal, he was like, "You're about to see the best of me." Come on. Koulibaly. I wanted this guy for years. I can't even deny it. I wanted Koulibaly for years, right? When he finally come to Chelsea and he called up JT and he was like, "Yeah, I want the number 26." And they were like, "Yeah, you can have it." And then he actually got on the pitch and started playing football. And do you know what? I actually think Dazassi might have been better than this bloke. He was shocking. I think he scored a good goal. And at moments he looked okay. But this is a player that, he couldn't cope with how quick the Prem was. His mind, he just couldn't make decisions quick enough. I think that was so evident with Koulibaly. And he had to be moved on swiftly. Obviously, I haven't heard a thing about him since he went to Saudi Arabia. But again, it's another miss. So we're now 4-2. 4-2 to miss. Then in January, Badiashile, £38 million miss. This guy is, for me, that first part actually from January to the end of the season was actually pretty solid. But right now, with the injuries and with the ups and downs in performance, I think it's another miss. Because when you look at it, it's £40 million. The player you can go and get for £40 million is better than Badiashile, in my opinion. So that's a miss. 5-2. Noni Madueke, £35 million. This is an interesting one. What do people think on Madueke? Because I actually think this could be a miss for 35 million. Yeah, they are all euros. Yeah, I said that a second ago. But still, it's been spent. However you dress it up, whatever conversion you do. I mean, you could put it in dollars and it would be double. I want to know the chat. I'm going to wait for you on Madueke. I want to see what you say. Let me know. Hit or miss on Madueke. Because Madueke, for me, is... Okay, what we're doing right now for people that are just coming in, because I can see a couple coming in, right? People are saying... you can't blame Maresca, it's the sporting directors. This is what we're doing, right? We are going through what the sporting directors have done in terms of recruitment and seeing whether they've had more hits or more misses. The current score, chat, I think, is 5 or 6-2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5-2 currently. We're on Madueke, obviously coming from PSV for 35 million euros. He is... I think he's right on the line, because I think 35 million, I mean, he's only just now scoring a few goals. And even then, I think it's 5 goals this season, 3 in one game. I'm not sure. I don't know. If I could say draw on this, I'd say draw. We'll get profit for him. He's been good in the meantime. Who else could we have started left wing for these past few years? Yeah, look. Let's give him a hit on Madueke, because I think you can see that he's a good player. You know, some of the players you look at and you think they're actually rubbish or they are no way near good enough. I look at Madueke and I think he's all right. This is where it's mad, right? I think Sterling probably has done better for Chelsea than Madueke, though. I actually think he probably has. And that is crazy. But Madueke's output's been really poor. So... look, that's a tough one. I'm not sure on Madueke. Chat, I need you to tell me hit or miss. Hit or miss, because I could put miss and be pretty comfortable with it. I actually could. I'm already have bottled another season. They're getting the manager. Yeah, look, it's not looking great. The sporting directors have caused some issues. The direction these directors are leading us into is looking dreadful. Verstort laughing. Dan Knight says, hi. Good to see you in here, Dan. How you doing, mate? What has Madueke done to get a hit? 4 goals. I think you can see that Madueke's a good player. Guys, I'm going to say miss. I think let's settle on mid. Let's settle on mid. Madueke could be on his own in this category, I think. So count Madueke on his own. I think Madueke we're yet to see, really. I think right now I'm more towards a miss. Because I just think that's another 35 million euros on a player that ultimately hasn't probably done enough. Hasn't. Gusto. I think Gusto's a hit. Obviously didn't come in till the next season, but I think Gusto's a hit. I think they can have that. Yeah, if Gordon was 40 million, it's true. It is true. Malo Gusto, I mean, this season, look, Gusto has been off it. No, he was only 40 million to Newcastle, by the way. I think Malo Gusto, I hope you return to the form we saw last season. I'm going hit. We're going 5-3. 5-3 right now. Chukwuemeka, miss. However you dress it up with Chukwuemeka, the fact that now he's being deemed not good enough, he's out of the squad, it's a miss because that's the sporting directors have bought a player that the managers don't like. For me, I think Chukwuemeka is quality. I mean, he looks really good. He's had a lot of injuries. He cost 18 million, but they can't get him in the team. So I'm going to go with another miss here. So that's 6-3. And I know some of you will say, no, Chukwuemeka's not a miss, blah, 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 blah. No, Chukwuemeka is nowhere near the team at the moment. If you spend the money on a kid at 18 million and you tell him, you know how good he could be, and then the manager who you've hired doesn't even want him anywhere near the team and wants him loaned out, he could kind of fall into the mid what-if category with Madueke. Guys, Madueke's a miss. Madueke's a miss. I think Madueke's a miss, guys. I actually do. The more I think about Madueke, the more I think he's a miss. I might have to make that 7. Because I just think Madueke is... He's in a category on his own, you know, because he's been okay. But what did... I don't know with Madueke. That's a real tough one, guys. Chukwuemeka's a miss. So we'll go 7-3. Cassidy, miss, 8-3. Not even much to say there. Cost 15 million. Don't have much to say. Andre Santos, we haven't seen him in a Chelsea shirt, but he looks quite good. He probably is a what if. Fofana is a miss for me. So that's 8-3. I don't even need to elaborate on Fofana. Aubameyang, 9-3. Well, come on. Aubameyang had a game, had 20 minutes, 10 minutes with the manager that wanted him, and they sacked the manager, and then the player never really got going for Chelsea. João Felix on loan. Miss. I'm going to be honest. I think he got 1 goal. I think he was really exciting, but just 11 million it cost for 1 goal. Miss for me. Even though I like João Felix, I just think it was a miss. Zakaria, miss. Wasn't really good enough. Obviously paid 3 million. That puts us up onto 11. So we're 11-3. I think Santos might not see the light of day at Chelsea. I've got this horrible feeling. I know he's a kid. I think someone's going to buy him before we get a sniff. I think he's doing enough at Strasbourg for another team to look at him and go, hang on a minute. Chelsea aren't even giving this guy a minute in their team. He's quality. Let's buy him. If he ends up at PSG, wouldn't even be shocked because you know he is good enough to play in the French league. Do you want to do departures on hit or miss, or do you just want to do incomings? Maybe we'll just do incomings because actually I think, to be fair, for most of the outgoings up until the summer that's just gone, I think they've actually been okay. I think there were players that probably could have gone. If we look like Werner, Emerson, Jorginho, Gilmour, Lukaku, Batshuayi, Malang Sarr, Kennedy, Rudiger obviously was going to go anyway. They didn't do the contract. Christiansen, I think he was probably gone anyway. Alonso gone anyway. Yeah, actually, the players they've let go, I think incoming only. Yeah, I agree. Right, cool. Unless there's an outrageous one. Okay, arrivals 23-24. This is where... Oh, by the way, just to let everyone know, in case you didn't see it, £621 million was spent in that first season. £621 million. Guys, that is only 80 million short of what Arteta's spent in 5 years. Look how many of those players have already gone. Guys, remember the score. I'm going to put it in the chat quick. I think it's 11-3 for the first season. 11-3 for the first season. If you agree, smash a like. We've got 20 likes. If we could double it today, that would actually be unreal. Appreciate all of you guys tuning into this. We are moving into the second season of Hit or Miss for the sporting directors at Chelsea Football Club. We won't go into specifics because there's a couple there that I think were different directors. So, Moises Caicedo, I think we're having to ask for more players because we're 11 misses already against 3 okay and Madueke on the side. Like, it's just crazy. Madueke's our garlic bread. 3 players have actually been a decent bit of food. And 11, I mean, that good meal and good food Todd Bodie was talking about. I mean, oh, wow. Oh, the set-piece coach. Don't even get me started on the set-piece coach because it's just like, I don't know what he's done. I don't want to give him stick. He might have actually done something, but I haven't seen enough. And I think 11-3 miss right now. It is 11-3 miss. So, arrivals 23-24. Let's be fair here. Like, if we need to give the sporting directors credit, let's give them credit because we do know they've had some players turn into real gems. Moises Caicedo, £116 million. Euros, sorry. I'm going to say hit. 11-4. I'm going to say 11-4. I think he's been really, really good. I'm going to put him in as a hit because I think ultimately people weren't sure at the beginning and it cost a lot of money, but now I don't really look at the price tag. I really don't. I think he's so good. Lavia. This is one that could potentially be on either side, right? Lavia, 60 million euros from Southampton. He's barely played. Now, he looks like a good player, but he's barely played. So are we hit or miss here? Because part of me wants to say hit. I feel like, what are we saying here? I think it's a hit. Because he's a good player. But I do kind of want to see more from Lavia to know. I don't know whether to put Lavia on the side with Madueke and a bit of garlic bread. I just don't know. Hit. Solomon says, what? Hit 100%. Stop it. Lavia is a miss right now. You can't call him a hit when he's missed that many matches. I think it's harsh to call him a miss as well, though, because I think he looks really good. But he did cost 60 million. 60 million for a player that's barely played. What are we saying? For the price and availability, miss. Not his fault he don't play. That's kind of what I'm thinking, Cleo. Guys, should I put him on the garlic bread pile? Is he a side? I think he's a side. I think that's what we do. We call him a side. But yeah, same as Madueke, right? Even though Madueke's played, we're not sure. I think we leave him off the score. He can go in the side. Someone's going to have to start counting side dishes. I'm going to put the score in for garlic bread. Don't forget that. Remember this, right? Christopher Nkunku. This is the most frustrating signing in the whole of all of their incomings for me, because I think he's unbelievable. I think this guy is so good. You get him in the team, but he isn't. He's had his injuries that cost him. I think it's a miss. 60 million for what Nkunku's put on the board for Chelsea is a miss. So. No, Fofana was a miss, guys. Fofana was a miss. Yeah, he's a miss. No, Felix has played. Felix has played enough to Felix on loan. We done Felix on loan, by the way. We haven't done Felix as a buy yet. Felix on loan for me was a miss. 1 goal, 11 million. He could have potentially been on the side dish, but he got sent off as well. I think Felix's loan showed that he was an exciting player, but probably showed that he wasn't good enough for Chelsea. So I think Felix's loan was a miss, guys, if anyone's getting confused. We haven't got onto Felix being bought yet. We haven't got onto that. So I think Nkunku's a miss. I think he's scored goals. I think he looks like an incredible player. I think we'll go on to rue the fact that we didn't give him a chance in his right position. But if you spend 60 million on a player and the manager doesn't see how he gets into his system that you've hired, he's had injuries, look, for me, we could do managers as well. It's a miss. So we are currently on what 11, 12, 12-3. Let me put that because it's been a while. 12-4 actually. 12-4 because of Casado. 12-4 current score to miss. Cole Palmer. It's a big hit, guys. Let's be real. It's a big hit. I saw that news, Solomon, actually, and do you know what? If Chukwuemeka and Chilwell go to Everton, I actually don't even mind it. Don't even mind it. I'd love to just see Ben Chilwell playing football again because I think he's been treated in a mad way as well. I honestly think Chukwuemeka just needs to play because he's had so many injuries. We need to see what sort of player we've got here, and I just don't know if Chukwuemeka plays a lot of games because I look at their midfield and I think actually Everton have probably got players. Cole Palmer, right, let me tell you why it's not 2 hits, and I can see why people would say that. I can tell you all right now that the sporting directors and no one else in football thought Cole Palmer would do what he's doing right now. So I think they brought Cole Palmer in I think they brought him in as almost backup to Nkunku. I'm not even lying. And I think actually he's done unbelievably well. And as much as I can credit him for bringing him in, I don't think they ever thought he was going to be that good. I don't think anyone did. Because if they did, the club that had him and saw him every day at training, Man City, would not have let him go. So that's definitely a hit, obviously. Cole Palmer makes it 12-5. Shields. Honestly, guys, if you gave Joe Shields his little list on the side, he'd probably be doing all right. He'd probably be doing all right. Axel Disasi, 45 million euros. 45 million. Oh my gosh, guys, Disasi costs 45 million. Oh my gosh. Let me know in the chat. Like, come on, what are we saying for Disasi? Guys, if Disasi leaves in this window, I don't see how we make profit there. I just don't see how we do. 45 million. What are we saying, guys? I'm just typing, so I don't want to annoy you with the noise. Charging out of top 4. Cool. That would be a hit under Shields. It was Joe Shields signing for Cole Palmer. Miss. Guys, miss. Are we all saying miss? I think we say miss quite comfortably there. 13-5 to miss on Disasi. Nicholas Jackson. That's a hit, That's a hit. So 13-6. 37 million actually looks like not bad value for the type of striker that he is. Uga Chukwu. I'm going to say miss. I haven't seen enough of him in a Chelsea shirt. 14-6 actually. 14-6. Let's keep the score going. 14-6 to miss right now. 2 on the garlic bread pile still. Robert Sanchez, 23 million. It's 15-6. This is when we're going to start seeing it get away, I think. Petrovic. Guys, Petrovic is a miss. He's already been deemed not good enough and been loaned out to Strasbourg. So it's 16-6, right? Angelo. Oh, Angelo is a tough one because he never played for us, but we did get clear profit. So it is kind of a hit. I don't know if he's a side... Guys, is Angelo a side dish? He could be. Angelo could be mid, He could be because we didn't see him play, but they made profit. What do we think? Ugachukwu will never put a foot... No, I agree, right? I agree with Ugachukwu, but he's not playing. If a player has to go on loan to Southampton and he costs 30 million, I don't think he's currently a hit. I just don't think he is. We made profit on a year, that's a hit. I probably agree with you. Are we saying that profit just equals hit? I think we have to. Well, let's say hit on that one. I think we say hit. I think we can say hit as well. Petrovic is a side dish. Now, Petrovic, guys, if you actually go back and look at last season, Petrovic wasn't a hit. He actually, like, if you see the analysis where Petr Cech breaks it down, this guy is like, he's not at it. He's not good enough to be Chelsea's keeper. Considering he cost 16 million, we'll probably make profit on him and just turn it around. So it could be. I think we need to say, like, profit. I don't know what profit puts you in, because if you sign a player for 15 million, you make 20. Let's call it a hit. I'm not sold on it being a hit, but I think we can call it a hit. He was better than Sanchez last week. He was, but Sanchez is a miss, guys. And it doesn't take much to be better than Sanchez. Moreira, free transfer. I'm going to say that's a miss, by the way. So that's 17-7. Fofana and a loan. Okay, so that's the end of players incoming. 448 million spent. We've crossed the £1 billion. 17 players have already been a miss out of 7 in £1 billion spent. This is crazy. We've got a couple on the side dish. Absolutely crazy. We managed to raise 278 on players leaving. Wait. What are we saying? Hang on, Solomon. What? I'm waiting. Why we made 2 more profit on Moreira? Why miss? Oh, really? Nah, Moreira's not a hit. He wasn't. This is what I'm saying. If a player's not good enough for the first team, is it just a miss? Do you reckon? I don't know. I'm not sure, guys. If a player doesn't play for Chelsea and he's not good enough, even if it makes profit, is it a miss? Because are we a buying and selling club? Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of a miss. It's another player that hasn't been good enough to get into Chelsea's 11. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Garlic bread. I think players like... All right, if we call Moreira garlic bread, I actually think we have to call... I think we have to call players that come in and then don't play. I think we have to call them garlic breads. I think we have to. We have to call them a side dish. I think Angelo might have to be in the same thing. Yes, we've made profit, but also, by the way, I reckon Moreira got paid 2 million in wages because we're still he's still playing for a club that is owned by the same people paying his wages. So I think he's a miss. I think Moreira's a miss, guys. I'm happy to leave it as it is, but I think he weren't good enough to play for us. It's as simple as that. So 17-6 and 4 garlic bread. Let's call it that. Yes, Solomon, nice. Let's call it that. Go on, I'm happy to do that. Okay, this is an interesting one. Pedro Neto, starting off 60 million. What are we saying on Neto? Let's be real here, guys. 60 million is a lot of money. 60 million pounds. I think Neto's been really good. I think he's been really good. I don't think... Oh, if we sell for like 1 times 7.5, I think... Yeah. Wait, Sam, the only thing is... Yeah, I hear you. I think you have to make £5 million profit on a player to be a hit. I think you've got to make 5 mil, in my opinion. You've got to make like a substantial amount, really. So let's run with something like that. Neto will be a hit, but for now he's a miss. Oh, guys, this is crazy. Free GNA and EPL isn't good enough. Miss. This guy costs 60 million. I think we need to be real here. We can see how good he is when he plays. We can see there's a player here. But is he doing enough for the money he cost? So let's be real here. I'm not sure on Neto. I really like him. Really like Neto. I want him to do well. But right now, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Come on, help me out. Hit or miss? I'm going to say hit. I think it is. I think he's a hit. I think he's playing well enough. I know it's not all on GA, and I've seen a player in Neto. But we could have got Elise or Kudus. You're not wrong. He only started 10 games. Oh, no, don't do this. I think he's a hit, but part of me is, oh my gosh, is it too soon? Is it too soon on Pedro Neto to say he's a definite hit? Like, who have we put hit? Is he better than? Is he better than... Like, we said Lavia. What did we say Lavia was? Did we say he was garlic bread? I can't remember. Like, who else got hit? Enzo Fernandez got hit, and he's had 2 bad seasons. And he would have been a miss up until this season. Gusto, hit. He's had a bad season this year. Side dish, Lavia was a miss. Guys, I think Neto could be a miss for 60 million, at this moment in time. I just don't think... I think I want to side dish him. I'm going to be patient enough to put Neto on the garlic bread pile. I may even pull him off by the time we get to the end of this recruitment period, right? João Felix, 50 million. For me, this is a miss. I think João Felix is a good player, but he's only started 3 Prem games. I think we needed to sign players in positions that were way more important than João Felix. We had Cole Palmer, we had Nkunku. I think it's a miss. To spend £50 million on João Felix when you had Nkunku and you had Cole Palmer, it's a miss for me. It's a miss. If Felix is a miss, so is Neto. Maybe then. Neto hasn't been unreal. He hasn't been. He's been good. And I think Felix and Neto, right? They're good to watch and they're enjoyable. Oh my gosh. That's 110 million euros. 110 million euros. On what? Come on. Think of the player you could have bought for 110 million. Are they both misses? Are they? They're really tough. Let's move on and we'll come back. I'm going to put them in garlic bread. Can we update the scores to put Felix and Neto in garlic bread? We'll get to the end and we will decide. Dewsbury Hall, that's a miss for me. 35 million euros is a miss. Solomon, what was the scores on the doors? Felix cost us a striker. Semenyo would be better than both. That's what I'm saying. Neto's been set up for failure. Need a box. Yeah, I agree. Neto needs a different profile, and that's why I think... And I also think João Felix, I don't know, 50 million on João. We spent 60 million in total on João Felix at his time at Chelsea. I'm not sure. 18-6, 6 garlic bread. Right. Solomon, loving this as well. You keeping the scores there. You know what, right? The garlic bread pile's stacked up way more than I ever thought it was going to. I thought we'd end up with one little side dish, and we've ended up with as many side dishes as misses. And no, as many side dishes as hits, which is kind of crazy because if they're not a hit and they're not a miss and they're a side dish, they're arguably still not good enough for us to be convinced of either or. So they're technically a miss because they haven't quite gone in. All right, Solomon, I love it. I'll keep trying to do it. Let's go through in rapid. Jorgensen, 24 million. I'm going to say miss, guys. I'm going to say miss on Jorgensen. I arguably haven't seen enough. He's cost a lot of money. Maybe in a couple of years. I think the thing with this season is some of them are too soon, but genuinely, I'm not sure. I don't think he's a hit. I don't think Jorgensen is a hit because he's not been deemed good enough to displace Sanchez. And I think that just means it's another person that's not good enough. So I'm going to say that's 19-6, right? 19-6. I think he is a player that could potentially hit the side dish pile as well. Mike Penders, 20 million. Currently a miss for me. I don't know anything about him. He's not playing for us. He's on that pile. So 20. It's a bit harsh. Could be a side dish. Could be. Anselmino. Do you want to do side dish then? Because it's too soon. Do you want to? Could be. Because there's players like Caleb Wiley, Anselmino, Jorgensen, Penders. We haven't seen enough. We've spent so much... No, guys, it's a miss because we spent so much... We spent 45 million on keepers in the summer. Nah, they're both a miss, mate, because you could have bought one keeper for 45. Unless we're selling both of them on for 10 million profit each. Side dish for people that didn't come in yet. Yeah, true, because it's a bit harsh to judge them. Anselmino. Anselmino's come back. Look, I'm not sure. Vega. Let's go side dish 4. Okay, update side dish 4. Anselmino, Penders. Yeah, Anselmino and Penders, side dish. Caleb Wiley, side dish. That's it. This is what I'm saying, though. Like, we've gone to Domino's or Nando's and just ordered sides. And been like, do you know what? They could potentially fill me up. They might fill me up. Maybe I'll walk out of this restaurant and think, I'm not hungry anymore. But there could be a chance that I eat my sides and then I walk out of this restaurant and think, I'm still a bit hungry. That's what's happened here. That is what's happened. When Todd Bowley said, good food, good meal, or whatever the quote was, he didn't realise he was going to end up ordering this many side dishes. I can tell you that right now. This is, honestly, to order this many sides could be just one giant miss. Because you're ordering this many sides. It's just more money it's just being spent and no one knows what's going on with it. It's kind of crazy. It could be a miss, guys. It could just be a miss to order this many sides. Let's keep going, though, shall we? Vega. I'm going to say Vega's a miss, because for Vega in 6 months to potentially be on his way out and no one knowing where he wants to play, I'm going to say it's a miss. I'm going to say it. It's 21-6, I think. No, let's go 20. Oh, yeah, I'm going to say 21-6. 21-6, right? Jadon Sancho. Guys, I think Sancho's a hit. I actually think Jadon Sancho's a hit, which for the amount of money he could end up costing us, for the player I've seen so far, I really like Sancho. I think we make profit on Sancho if we tried to sell him as well for the money he's going to cost. I think we keep Sancho as a hit. I like him. Are we all happy with that? I think Sancho can be a hit. Sancho can be a hit because he's like half the price of Neto. Neto is arguably doing the same as Sancho, but he costs 30 million more. I think Sancho's a hit. Tosin is a miss. Tosin is not good enough. I know he's a free transfer, but he's a miss. So 22-7. I think Tosin's not good enough. Are we saying miss in terms of not playing for Chelsea or in terms of making a loss? Miss in terms of the sporting directors have bought a player and ultimately they're probably not good enough, is what we're saying. Or they've cost too much and we don't know. We've got a little side dish portion going on as the garlic bread, and we have got a number of players in there like João Felix, Pedro Neto, who it might just be a little bit too soon to judge. Guys, any other names that we've put in the garlic bread? Can anyone think of any? Throw them in there just so everyone's on the same page. Vega was cheap and we make a profit here. I don't. You reckon? Oh, guys, I think Vega's a miss. It's just caused so much more. Listen to this. Why I think Vega's a miss, because we only know we're not made a profit yet. He's going to leave after 6 months of being here. We now have to go and sign another defender if Vega leaves. And what on earth happened in the discussions in the summer that by now we're already on 2 completely different pages? I think it's a miss. I think Vega is such a mess, and the fact that it's happened how it has, it's a miss, right? I actually think it is. As much as I think Vega's okay, I actually just think it's a miss because it's so messy. Vega should have been coming in with a clear understanding of what life was going to look like at Chelsea, and it didn't. He hasn't got it, and now he wants to leave. The fact that he wants to leave, and it's because of the sporting directors probably promising something that he was never going to get in terms of playing at centre-back, and also he doesn't suit what this man... They knew who they were hiring in Maresca, by the way, and they've bought a player that doesn't suit the manager. So I'm going to say it's a miss, and I think Sam's hit the nail on the head there. Worst part of these misses is the combination of just a couple of these players could have been used on top players. I completely agree. I think that's the thing, isn't it? There's so many players that are miss or side dish that they could have been used all together to just go in and buy other players. I think the fact that there's so many misses and there's so many side dishes, right? Yeah, probably, Luke. It probably is. But I think because it's gone that way, I think it's a miss. I think when we get to the end of this, right, and we get the final score, let's assess it all, right, and summarize it. Let's get through it now. I know some people are wanting to see the end. We've got, I think that's it, actually. Oh, and then we can't really say Esteban Paez yet because we just don't know. We just don't know. But okay, final scores on the door. Final scores on the doors is 22-7. Solomon's probably gone by now, but he did say the last side dish score was 6. Side dish could be 9, actually. It might be 22-7-9. It might be that. So, we've signed 7 players that have been deemed good and a hit. 9 players are still left on the side dish pile. That does include marquee signings, João Felix and Pedro Neto. But we have signed 22 players that have been considered a miss. So out of pretty much 40 players, 30 aren't hits. 30. Doesn't mean they're all bad, but it does mean some of them is just, what's the... Boys, break the news to me. Let's get it up. What is it? What's the Fabrizio Romano tweet? Give me 2 secs. Oh my gosh, I don't want to see it. Bear with me. Let's have a look. Fabrizio Romano. This Sesko news is heating up as well. Okay. All right. So someone broke this, but first bit of news. Chelsea are in talks to sign Adeyemi for the summer. Interesting. I actually think that's a miss, just off the bat. Adeyemi does not excite me. Another player that's just... where's... Let's see what it says. Fabrizio Romano. I used to have notifications on him. I just obviously don't have them on anymore. I think he got one. Okay. This one's not that bad. I can live with it. Torino are prepared to present new official bid to Chelsea for Casadei on permanent transfer. It will also include an important sell-on clause as part of the deal. The sell-on clause just absolutely shows to me that these players are coming in purely for profit. That is why these players are being signed. To never get close to the team and be bought in purely for profit. That's what they're doing here. That's why these players are coming in. What else has Fabrizio broke anything else? Davies is a player that I would definitely take. Oh, here we go. What's this? No active contacts between Juventus and Chelsea with Disasi. Juventus have different targets while Disasi has attracted interest from other clubs. Villarreal apparently is another team. Disasi is expected to leave Chelsea in Jan. This is crazy. 40. There's no way we get £40 million back. And this as well, by the way, I'd love to hijack this deal. Because I'll be honest, I just think that him going to PSG is shocking. What's this? Bournemouth. Chelsea are every other tweet. We're just non-stop in the transfer market. Oh my God. We are non-stop. Bournemouth have agreed terms with Chelsea for 19-year-old winger Zane Silcott Dewberry. Deal includes sell-on clause and future incentives for first team appearances contract. Do you know what's nuts, right? Is this deal probably got done the other night of the game. Probably got done the other night of the game when we played Bournemouth. They probably sat down and said, you got anyone in the youth team? We need to probably buy someone. And then they've gone, yeah, we could sell you this guy. That's probably what's happened at the game the other night. What is that training kit, by the way? That is awful. What is that? Arsenal have actually got some pretty cool stuff, but that is horrific. This is going to be crazy if he goes to City. Kolomuani, by the way, unless he does well in Italy, I think this guy is just way off it. I just don't see a player there. And that's pretty much it. No other Chelsea news. Guys, I'm going to be real. The fact that we've got round to this point and we kind of ran through everything and we ended up with a score like that, this is bad, man. Transfer rumors regarding Chelsea now is all PR when in reality we're buying some inexperienced kids. Yeah, 100%. Adeyemi, but guys, Adeyemi, yeah, is not better than Nkunku. I just don't think he is. What's Ornstein said? Have I got Ornstein? Oh, no. Fabrizio Romano tweet. I'll show you quickly. Literally, as we were saying, bang, he's just put Man City eyes time. That means it's done. So, City are going to sign Marmoush. City are literally a couple of points behind us in the Prem. Oh, my gosh. Can we get the table up? Guys, this is... Manchester City are signing Marmoush, right? And they're only 2 points behind us. And they're about to go and drop the money on Marmoush. Chelsea need a kick up the backside. 35 points to 37 points, considering where we were. You know, before... This is nuts. Before going into the festive period, Chelsea were in a good enough position to actually go and potentially challenge for the title. And we've lost and dropped so many points that we're now... Because if we had 10 points over the last... We got 3 out of a possible 15. So if we got 10, we would have been on 47 points. No, we wouldn't. We would have been on 45. 45 is so bad. It's so bad. No matter who... You can look at the sporting directors, right? But the sporting directors don't affect what's happening on the pitch right now, apart from the players that they sign. You can look at Maresca and think there are some games where it's been on Maresca. And there are moments in some games where it's definitely been on him. Substitutions, some tactical things, some players playing in positions that's probably not up to their standard, and squad selection. Because I think actually you can argue that the rotation against Ipswich probably was the reason we didn't do very well in that game. Then you can also look at the players, and a number of players haven't been good enough. For me, all those things can be true and all those things can be right at the same time. And I think that's what's so frustrating. But if they're going to go and sign Marmoush and that's going to get done, Chelsea have to do something. At least City won't have their new players when we play them. No? When do we play? Yeah, when do we play City? That's got to be soon, isn't it? Next game? Wolves and then City? Or they might have... Do you know what? They could have Marmoush. That could be his debut. That could be his debut, guys. Because Marmoush probably doesn't play at the weekend, but he could play that game. He could. That could be his debut. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Imagine Marmoush makes his debut against Chelsea. That would give us 5 days to make something happen. The thing, here's what I like, right? Here's what I like. Saturday the 25th till the 3rd of Feb. What's the 3rd of Feb? The fact that we've got... You know, I always think if you play on deadline day, your club does nothing. If you don't play, people get itchy feet. And I think if we've lost to Chelsea, to Wolves and City by the time that gap rolls round from the 25th... Oh, I'm not showing you. Hang on. I had this up thinking this was really... Right. See here. Oh, why is it like that? One sec. Where is City? Here. See this. 25th to the 3rd. 25th to the 3rd. In that gap, if we've lost ground and City have gone above us, I think that makes people panic a little bit, and we might get busy and get some incomings. But honestly, I'm concerned. I think we're going to be okay because I think we can turn this around. But like, we are genuinely in a position that's so worrying. The fact that we went through all those players, right? All those players, 22, 7, 9. The fact that only 7 out of 40 players have been good enough to start for Chelsea and really been decent. I just think that's crazy. Think of the amount of money. Okay, actually, let's look very quickly. Those 7 we said were Enzo Fernandez, who just is on that list only recently, Cucurella, Gusto, Jackson, Cole Palmer. Wait, guys, who else? Sancho. There's one more. Oh, Lavia? No. Lavia's a side dish. One more. Who's the one more? Casado? No. There's one more, right? So I can't even find who the 7th was, so it can't be that obvious. Who is it? No, I don't know who it is. Okay, so there's 6 or 7. Wait, let's do it again, because I actually can't find it. Fernandez, Cucurella, Gusto, Casado, Palmer, Jackson, Sancho. There we go. We didn't say Casado because he was told that. Simon Phillips' tweet. Let's have a look quickly. So, 7 players. Well, hang on. No, I need someone to add this up. Right. Add this up, guys. 120 plus 65. Wait, hang on. Can I do it for you? Hey, Siri, add this up for me.
What's the name of the new...
No, that's not right. Ah, Angelo. Nah, Angelo went on side dish, I think. Maybe. I think he might have put Angelo on side dish when Solomon did the scores. Okay, let me add this up. 120 plus, this is all in euros, 65 for Cucurella, plus 30 for Gusto, plus 116, plus 47, plus, who did we say on there? Casado, Cole Palmer. Jackson was 37, plus Sancho. Does anyone know Sancho? Is it about like 28? Is it about 28? 20. I'm going to say 28. Okay, so we've spent 440 million on 7 players that have been deemed good enough. We've spent 1.6 billion, I think, in total. 238, that's a billion. Nah, we probably haven't. We've probably spent 1.3 billion euros, I think, looking at that. That's without net spend. 448, 621, probably about 1.3, 1.4 billion. We've spent £1 billion. Oh my gosh. We've spent £1 billion on players that aren't good enough to start for Chelsea. Guys. Oh, chat, man. You spent £1 billion. £1 billion. Oh, it hurts so much more when you actually realise it, yeah? And you actually add it up. We've spent £1 billion. £1 billion. We spent £1 billion, man. Oh, Moani's gone on loan, by the way. Fabrizio's busy, isn't he, this hour? He's working today. £1 billion. We've spent a bit. Guys, please, just for my sympathies, drop a like. Oh, my God, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll do more of these. We've got another, 8 years of it. Oh, my gosh. £1 billion on either players that might be profit one day or currently aren't good enough. And there's probably about 100 million, maybe more on side dishes, maybe 250 million. So there's still even if we're really generous, by the way, and we say there's 300 million on, oh my God, that's thought, hang on, keep that thought, right? But there's about 300 million, say, roughly on side dishes that we're still undecided on. This is the 1.5 billion that's been spent that Roman said that the club could spend because he was just going to write it off. They've basically gone, with that money, why don't we spend it, try and double it, so make double on every single player that we buy, and then that 1.5, we've got it to spend again, and also we can take 1.5 billion out of what we paid for the club. So actually, they're going to be like, we only bought it for 2 billion. Oh my God. We've been done. Oh no. Roman, I miss you. Oh no. Guys, not that, look, you could probably go through hit or misses of the whole time Roman Abramovich was there, yeah, and there's still going to be issues, but I just think it's the amount of time that it's been done in. Crazy. What Simon Phillips said, let's see what you guys are saying. Oh my gosh. Honestly, Adeyemi just doesn't excite me. Just does not excite me, guys. Let's see. What are you saying? Simon, he never comes up for me. Is it Cy? Is it Cy Phillips? Yeah, Cy Phillips. Cool. Bayern are... Let's see. This is crazy, man. Sorry for the meltdown. It's just when it hits like that and you actually realise it's just crazy. It's just... I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what to say. We've spent £1 billion. Sources... SPTC, Simon Phillips Transfer Centre. Sources. Bayern are so far offering a small upfront fee for Christopher and Nkunku and then the rest in instalments and add-ons. That's exactly how Chelsea work. Chelsea are requesting more upfront. Of course. Talks ongoing. Do you know what? I don't think Clearlake want to put their own money into the club like what Roman did. I just don't think they do. They're not happy. They want to bankroll it off of the money that the club can turn over. And I think that 1.5 million has already just been put aside by Roman, and he's probably looking at it going, oh my gosh. Am I realising right now? Are we in trouble? 7 out of 40 players have been deemed good enough. You could swing that to probably 10 and then 30. Like it's very like grey areaed. But it is always in the majority that we have signed more players that haven't worked out than have. And we have spent more than 1/3 of pretty much 1.5 billion on players that will probably not be good enough for Chelsea. For the actual starting 11. That is crazy. Crazy. How's that happened? And you know what, right? The owners may have hired sporting directors that they wanted to act in a certain way. And I can understand that because that's what they probably had an idea in mind that they wanted us in a way, they wanted us to act in a certain way. But at the same time, right? Yeah, most of the garlic breads are misses. We're just kind of hoping that they could fill us up a bit and then we don't actually need to get a main. Or they become mains because they were actually so good. You know, like the cheese is melted to perfection. Jackson's suspended. Is he? Why is he suspended? Is it yellow cards? But what I'm saying is, right, if they hired the sporting directors and the sporting directors, they said, we want to have a team that are good enough to go and win Premier League titles, they're failing there, right? We want a team that can qualify for top 4. They're kind of failing there a little bit. We want a team... Because I think this team probably is good enough for top 4. I just think it's a bit of a mix of a few things at the moment. Is it nailed on though? Probably not. Are we having enough players in this team that we can move on for profit? Is probably another thing that they've said. So they've probably got like 3 things. They want a team that's good enough, players that can come in and be sold for profit, and sell homegrown players for maximum profit. Right? That's probably the 3 things they've asked the sporting directors to do. They're doing well on 2, but actually, when you look at the team that's being built, actually, the main thing in football is the team performing on the pitch. They're way below on that, the sporting directors. They're making... And are they doing that well on profit? Are they actually making the owners that much money? Because with all those misses, and with the fact they cost $1 billion, with half of those players not being good enough, I don't think they walk out with $2 billion earned in transfer fees for some of those players that we've signed. Like, on Nkunku, they'll break even. But I think on the books, it will say profit. But if you this is the thing, right? On the books, it will say profit because they do like this thing where they spread the payments out over like years and years and years. They amortize the transfer fee that would be paid. And then actually, if there's only like 3 years left and there's like 50 million owed, but you sell a player for 60, you're 10 million in profit. If you actually just do... The player come in and he cost this much, and the player went out and he cost that much. The sporting directors, I think, will be down. They won't have made a profit. I just don't think they will. You can't have spent £1 billion on that many players that aren't deemed good enough and make a profit. Honestly, guys, this is nuts. I just didn't think we'd sit down today and do that. I'm so glad we did that hit or miss. How many people have actually sat down and done that, honestly? Like, that's just crazy. They will not recoup the billion, but the books will say it's positive. And they either don't care about the billion, or they know they might be able to just they've spent the billion, and any profit they get from that billion, they take back as money off for what they bought the club for. Do you realise how lucky we were with Abramovich? In terms of a sporting side. Okay, look, stuff obviously went on in the background and it's all being questioned now, and he was obviously cutting corners. But in terms of building a team and hiring managers, every manager's a miss so far, by the way, as well. Every manager, I think, is a miss. I think Maresca could be on a side dish, but every manager's a miss as well. Oh, my gosh. We were so lucky. So lucky. But I actually think Clearlake, like, the adjustments don't have to be that big. And I actually think if they went about it with different sporting directors in a different way and focused and did a success first based approach and then build up and make profit on players that were just smart of getting in the first team, they'd still make a lot of money, because that's what Chelsea used to do. And I don't think actually the blueprint was that bad. We used to buy players. If they weren't good enough, we still used to make good money back on selling them. Palmer and Casado. We basically went through every one and said it was a hit or a miss. If you rewatch, you'll see. But we went through every player that we've bought in or out. I mean, if you go into the hits and you really talk about it, you could probably lower that number, up that number. We said Casado, Enzo, Palmer, Jackson. But then obviously Jackson is a hit, I think. Yeah, Napoleon. I've said this with, and this isn't just Maresca, and I think we have to be careful here, but I'm not even trying to be negative. I just think that the modern day managers, especially the Pep Guardiola disciples, are so focused on developing their system and their systematic tactical approach that they actually forget how important it is to get results, because they want their football to look exactly how they imagine it in their head. I can see that being a good thing, but I can also see it being a bad thing. And I think you are at a position at Chelsea where that just can't happen. You know, like Graham Potter at Brighton, he got it to the point where his Brighton side was playing exactly, probably almost how he wanted it, but sometimes they get the result he wanted, sometimes they wouldn't, but ultimately the football always looked exactly how he wanted it. At Chelsea, you can't do that, because ultimately you have to get results to stay at the top of the table. And that's why I like Arne Slot, because his team play good football, but at the moment he's being pragmatic enough to switch it up and go, hang on, we might lose this game if we don't switch it up and play and do something a bit different. And I think the same with like Nuno Espirito Santo, the same with Eddie Howe. I think they're happy to go, actually, we're not in control of this game, let's do something a little bit different. Someone like Maresca, he's not going to do that. Someone like Ange, he's not going to do that. Arteta, he actually is a bit more pragmatic. Even Pep is more pragmatic than that. I don't know. Arne Slot is going to have it difficult, though, if he loses the number of players that he could. He actually might. So I'm not really sure on that one either. I like the owners, they're willing to spend. Unlike other clubs, only issue is they won't sack the sporting directors. Do you know what? The fact our owners have been willing to spend is really good. It's what they've spent it on. I've said it before, right? Chelsea should be shopping in Harrods, and we went shopping in Primark. And we spent the same amount of money and got a load more for it, but none of it's any good. That's exactly what's happened. And you can shop wherever you want. I don't really care. But when you're a team that are dining at the top table, some of your clothes have got to be like the finest clothes. And we went to the wrong shop. I've said this a million times. Like, the fact that we've spent, and we can do this and have a laugh about it, but spent £1 billion on what? £1 billion on what? And the fact people can come in the chat, right, who watch Chelsea week in, week out, and we can all have different opinions, and someone can say, I actually think there's only like 2 or 3 genuine hits. And we can go, actually, do you know what? That could be right. It's just crazy, because we should be able to sit here and say, for the amount of money that's been spent, you could have spent £150 million on each player for a 15-man squad. That's just crazy, isn't it? It is crazy. Because I think Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest have genuinely built better squads, and I think their sporting directors have built squads that are focused on results first. And then, like, you think, right, Forest have built a squad based on getting results in the Premier League first. They've spent a lot of money. But now, because those players are playing well, every single player Forest have bought, genuinely, they could probably turn a profit on now because they're playing that well. That would have been good, right? Elise and Duran. Don't get me wrong. Duran, if we'd got him in the summer, probably would have been a hit. You know what I mean? Like, the same with Elise. But at the same time, there is still so many players coming in and out. Wages stopped signing Elise. This is what I mean. When you think about the fact that wages are now getting in the way, it is absolutely crazy. We've signed too many players. And I know people say it's the squad. Like, we have signed too many players. We are forever going to be trying to counteract the money we've spent in this small amount of time. And we're not going to be able to pay the wages that make us competitive and be able to sign the top players. It's just crazy. I don't know if it's working or not. I really, really don't, because I think our team's good. And I think Maresca actually showed that with a bit of time, this team could be good enough to go and actually do something really special if these players continue on an upward trajectory, because they look really good. That's the thing that's... But I think when you can sit here and break it down and it's this messy and there's this much volatility, I actually think for the top players, you can look at other clubs that are just as interested in signing you, and you'd probably rather go to them. And I think that's going to be an issue. And that's what concerns me, because I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm just confused. I'm not going to sit here and say it's wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say it's right, because I think with time, ultimately, we'll see. I think it's too early to say. But what I do know is, right now in this current moment in time, I don't think Chelsea's current squad is good enough to go and compete in the Champions League, go and compete in the Premier League. And it should be. And if you spend that much money, it should be. And I think there's a way of dressing up that money that you could spend. You could split it straight down the middle and go 700 on improving the squad, 700 on buying players potentially for profit. I'm absolutely baffled by the approach. Hopefully it works, because it's just confusing. Like, is anyone else just confused? Because that's how I think a lot of players would feel like that as well. If they were going to come into the club, the agents would go, I don't know what this club are doing. I don't know if they're going to be at the very top ever again. They might be close, but they might be happy to just be content for selling you in a few years. And then players will start going, yeah, all right, we use Chelsea as a stepping stone. Mate, that's what I don't want. That is what I don't want. I don't know if I think they will start... The fan base, if we miss out, and it looks like we're going to miss out on top 4, I think that's when the fan base turn. If this current result now doesn't... Like, these results do not change, I think the fan base will turn. I think the base structure needs to raise. We don't want to pay someone for 100k a week and end up on a match. No, honestly, I agree, Sam. I agree. I think there's a fine line. And I can see why, with the amount of players we signed in that first transfer window that were considered misses by us, and the money they cost, 600 million we spent in that first window, you can see why there's a reluctance to go and pay these players high wages, because they probably feel they're getting better results out of paying players less wages and hoping they're hungry to improve and use Chelsea as a stepping stone, and we benefit off of that. But at the same time, right, I think you have to remember, you went and signed all these players that were considered top players, but actually, were they actually that good anymore? Sterling was on the decline, Koulibaly was on the decline, Aubameyang on the decline, and Kunku obviously got injuries. Like, you sign these top players, Mudryk, Enzo, who didn't have much evidence to back it up, and it was kind of more a thoughtful, hopeful approach. If you don't have a system in place and you don't have an idea of where these players are going to play in that system, and you don't have a set in stone approach, because we didn't, because we sacked 4 managers, the more chance is that those players are never going to fit into the same system. And that's just crazy. I genuinely think that the reason a lot of those players were misses, apart from them not being good, is the fact that no one knew what system they were going into. It's just like randomly picking top names. It just wasn't ever going to work. That's where you do need a system, and you need a manager who's in place talking to the sporting director saying, look, we probably need a right back this transfer window. And they can go out and look for a right back. Because he's thinking, every time I pick the squad, I probably don't have a good enough right back right now. It's causing me issues. And that's where I think Chelsea's sporting directors, I don't think, are helping the situation. This is my worry. 5th UEFA Champions League spot will be our saving grace. Yeah, but all right, LB was saying we need to we probably need to win the Conference League to guarantee England a place in that 5th position. 98% chance that England get 5th place in the Prem. Look at the teams around us. Right now, the current form we are in is not good enough to get 5th place in the Prem. Because I think City will go above us, and I actually think Villa are in better form too, which is worrying. That's why, right? And actually, I think if the sporting directors just go and recruit in January a couple of players, genuinely, I think then we'd be in a bit of a better place. You know what's scary, right? And I will show you this just quickly. This is our 8 Prem games, Vast. Is that what you mean? Oh, our last 8 games is the run-in. Oh, yeah. No, very true. Right? Let me show you this quickly. Let me show you this, because I was looking through this just before I ended up on some lives today. Right? Look at this. So, Chelsea have... where was that international break? Let's find it. Here we go, right? So we played... Yeah, this is it, right? We played Forest, drew 1-1. Yeah? This is that gap, isn't it? This is the international break. So we drew 1-1 with Forest, which turned out to be probably an okay result considering where they've been at. Liverpool we lost to. Newcastle we beat. Manchester United we drew with. That's a shocking result. Now, Arsenal a draw. This period in time here, through this sort of international break, right? Oh, you can't even see it. That's not that. We were like, oh, okay. We got a few points against like tougher teams, and we were like, that might be okay. But actually, when you dress it up, and the fact that we then won like 5 games in a row here, but against arguably worse teams, Brentford, Tottenham, Villa, Southampton, Leicester, actually, that 5-game run in the Prem is saving us massively, because either side of that, I mean, what are we looking at? 1 win against Newcastle and 1 win against Brentford. Yeah? So, but then there's a lot of losses. So, hang on. And draws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. In our last 15 Prem games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins. 7 wins in our last 15 Prem games is actually not great, is it? Like that's actually quite concerning. So our current position in the table, it even looked better than what it was, because other teams around us were actually just dropping. Because you think about it, Arsenal were going through a bad spell, Newcastle were going through a bad spell, City were going through it. The only team that was being consistent whilst we were dropping points was Liverpool, when we were drawing with some of the other teams. So it's actually kind of crazy that, yeah, we were genuinely not even playing that well. The fact that we drew to Manchester United, that a couple of them games, they should have been wins as well. They actually should have been. Like the Forest game was poor. Wow. 7 out of the last 15 is actually not great. So we're just going to have to see. We're just going to have to see what is on the horizon for Chelsea, because genuinely, I don't really know. I actually don't. It's it's so concerning. It's so frustrating. It's so strange that this has happened. But actually, were we ever really playing as well as we thought we were, if that makes sense? What does everyone think? Were we? Have we fallen off, or is this actually the level we were, and now like it's balancing out a bit? Was I right at the beginning of the season to sit here and say that actually 5th place was realistic? A lot of people killed me for that, but part of me's thinking like that is actually not a bad shout. When I look at the teams and I still think they're better than us, I don't know. Are we good enough to get top 4? I think at points this season we've played well enough to get top 4, but are we going to be able to do it consistently enough? I don't know. I actually don't know. Let's do. What do we think? Can we get top 4? Yes or no in the comments. Let's see what you guys are saying. Guys, smash the likes if you haven't already. We're 2 likes off of 30 likes. Shout out to LB as well for the raid today. Thank you for that. Really do appreciate it. Imagine, guys, let's see. Imagine we qualify Champions League, stick with the same recruitment strategy, and then get absolutely embarrassed in Europe. What then? I don't know. Maybe if we qualify Champions League, they just think about spending a bit. You know where I think it will hit? If we go to that Club World Cup and we get embarrassed, I think then they will genuinely think, uh-oh. Because I don't think they want to go there with all these other rich billionaire owners and be embarrassed. Especially being Chelsea. Chelsea, hear me out on this. If Duran was the right profile in the summer, and he's only got better, why? And look, he might cost more. Why are we not just going straight back in for him? Is it because Villa see us as rivals? They wouldn't do it in the middle of the season. I miss the old Premier League, man. That used to happen. Transfers. Liverpool literally sold Chelsea Torres for 50 million because the money was right. I miss that. I do miss it. We should have been getting 10 points from the last 15, not 3. This was our easiest run of the season. We didn't. No, honestly, yeah. And then if we'd have got points in this last run of like 5 games, then you could look back at that point where we drew against Liverpool, Man United, got a win against Newcastle, but drew against Forest and Arsenal. You could go, do you know what? It was a few draws, but actually our form all the way around that, bar that little blip, has been pretty good. The fact now we're like, actually, that run of 5 wins in a row and 1 on either side to get 7 wins out of the last 15, it looks like those wins could potentially just be part of the roller coaster and the anomaly. And actually, we're not any better than where we were. It's kind of crazy. I think we just regressed to our mean. We're about 5th or 6th place now. Yeah. Honestly, that's so sad because we obviously probably the table was lying to us because these other teams were better and their form was just not at it. Maybe we're in that period right now where our form is just not at it and then we explode. But the fact that you can see that there's bad form either side of a period of wins, it says to me that actually we might not be. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, honestly, it's so frustrating because at points this season, none of us can deny it. We've played some pretty good football. That's what I find so frustrating is that we've actually been all right at times. But the last couple of weeks, I don't know. I don't know what happened. We could be now. I don't think we finished 7th, 8th. Do you guys think we're better now than where we were last season? Do you think we're better? Because I do. I think I've seen us play better football. You know, some people were saying like we were better under Poch. I'm not sure. I think we were probably better now. But it's hard to say it with a lot of conviction because of I actually think Sarri ball was better than Maresca by quite a lot. I actually do. Sarri had Chelsea 3rd in the Prem, won us a Europa League. I think Sarri was better. I genuinely do. We played we played good football under Sarri. Poch was really bad. Until like the last few games, Poch was bad. So I think we're better now under Maresca. And I genuinely think if Maresca had been given, all right, it won't happen, but if he'd had last season and then he was at this stage, I think we'd be ahead. I think we would be. I think by the time Maresca's had this season and then he's had a full season and so has Poch, then I think you then have to see where Maresca is at January next season, once he's had a season and a half. That's kind of what I think. But actually, when you look at points and points only, the difference between Poch and Maresca, I mean, Poch's last 20 games or last 18 games are probably better than Maresca's first. 18? No, I think we're on like 20 games now. So they probably are. I don't know. If you could choose a manager, who would you have taken? Probably like Hansi Flick. I think we should have gone for Hansi Flick when he was available. I think he's really good. I like him. And I think Hansi Flick, like he attracts proper players. But I think Hansi Flick probably looked at Chelsea and went, no way. Nagelsmann might have done a good job, but I just feel like the current sporting directors clashed with everyone, and that's why that happened. De Zerbi, I wouldn't have taken De Zerbi. Even though I feel like De Zerbi's not doing a bad job at Marseille, I probably wouldn't have taken him. The manager's situation wasn't great, was it? It actually wasn't. Like, Nagelsmann's probably better. I think Flick for me was just nailed on that would have been a manager that I thought was good enough for Chelsea. I just think it was. I just think Hansi Flick is the type of manager that the previous ownership would have gone for, and I just think that would have been what I would have done. I'm just trying to think of managers, but I genuinely, not too many are coming to my head, because I genuinely wasn't sure that any of them were good enough. I liked Amorim, but I didn't feel why I liked Amorim. I felt like Amorim's system would have worked because we've seen this Chelsea team play well with three at the back a number of times, and I think it would have been good. But at the same time, I was like, has Amorim done enough? I can't lie. I can't sit here and say I wanted Arne Slot, because I didn't. I genuinely wasn't sure what to expect when he went to Liverpool, but literally in the small amount of time, I've been really impressed with him. I actually think Arne Slot next season, that's going to be the real test for him. I really like him, but I want to see what he does next season, because I think if you lose Salah, you lose Trent, and like that team just sort of gets the best players ripped out of it, then I think that'd be crazy. Yeah, look at what Flick has done to some top-class players when he signed them as well. He's taken them to the next level. Rafinha, I watched that game the other night. I don't know if any of you tuned in on TikTok with me, but that was unbelievable. Like, that game, they cut open Real Madrid every time. The way they play, even like an old guy like Lewandowski is still balling out. And this is what I mean about Chelsea could go and sign a 30-year-old striker, and if he's good enough, he could play till he's 35. There are still strikers out there. There are still players out there. Oh, mate. I kind of... I need to download the thumbnail, actually. Rafinha is unbelievable. Trent's gone. Apparently today I actually saw the news saying that Trent is done. Apparently Trent's done. Apparently he is more than likely going to go to Real Madrid. And there's still a chance that it could be this January. I just think it's getting a little bit late for Liverpool to potentially sign anyone. to replace him. And that's what I'm saying, right? It's almost too late for anyone to replace Trent, a player that good, because they haven't had enough time to plan for it. So unless they get a decent amount of money and then can afford a real sort of panic buy, I think they'll be reluctant to let him go. But at the same time, if I was Liverpool, I'd be thinking, I actually want money for Trent rather than letting him go on a free. And Mbeumo must come. Let me talk to you about Mbeumo, because I know a lot of people really like him, and I actually think he'd be good. But what's this? Oh, Norwich. Oh, so I thought that was a different player then. Norwich signed someone for like 7 million, according to Fab. No, what I was going to say is, I genuinely think Mbeumo's really good. Like, I do think he's really good, but I think Mbeumo needs to play in a team where the game is completely open. As soon as we saw Brentford play like Plymouth, and Plymouth barely had the ball, those top players didn't look as good because they were up against the low block. And I think Chelsea's biggest issue right now is actually when we play against low blocks, some of our players are not clinical enough. And I think, and they don't have the cutting edge. And I think that's where Chelsea need to go and sign players with a cutting edge who are good enough against low blocks and teams when they sit back. I think Mbeumo's really good. I just think he needs to play in a team that are a little bit like... I think Mbeumo could go to Spurs under Ange and be really good. I think like Mbeumo could go to a number of teams that play football just a little bit more open. Maresca wants it slow. If you go and watch Maresca at the Bridge, he's like this. He's like, chill, calm down, slow it down. And I just think this Chelsea side, actually, when chaos is allowed to happen, that's when this, although we let in goals, I actually think that's when these Chelsea attackers look at their best. When we're allowed to be a little bit chaotic and break on the transition with speed and power and athleticism and individual players that are great in the 1v1. I think that's when this Chelsea side look unbelievable. I think it's really, really strong in transition. And this is it, right? Flick literally plays that style. I think he would have been perfect. I watched the way Barcelona, like, just every time they got on the ball, like, they just head was up, go. And I was thinking, this is great. And actually, even Real Madrid, until Modric came on, were trying to do the same, but Barcelona were winning the battle. And I just think with those type of individual players, those are the sort of managers that thrive. You don't want to restrict these players to a systematic, robotic type of football that doesn't actually benefit them. And I think we see that at times. Maresca actually tries to calm the game down, and then we end up losing the game for it. I think if you look at the Spurs game where we were 2-0 down, and all right, it was chaotic and we were losing, actually, on the other side of that, when Maresca slowed it down and we played Spurs off the park, that was needed. But in some games, you want to open it up. You want to just open it up and just literally make the game chaotic. Because our players, Madueke, Neto, Jackson, Palmer, even players like Enzo Fernandez, Casado, they thrive. Gusto, Reece James, they thrive in a chaotic environment. They do start in that. And I think the issue is that as much as Chelsea might have to start doing what the Chelsea was saying, is grinding for clean sheets, I think that will dry up our attacking output. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit, that our attacking output is drying up a little bit. It's only when you've got a maverick like Cole Palmer in the team. The Brighton game was a chaos game. The Wolves game was a chaos game. Not every team's going to allow us to play like that, but the Spurs game was a chaos game. And I think Maresca hates that style of football. But genuinely, I think it's when it's most enjoyable to watch Chelsea. And I actually think it's when we look at our best. I genuinely do. And I know people disagree, but I genuinely think it is. So for me, I'd run with it. I would run with it. And just that's when we look at our best. So look, it's frustrating. I'm genuinely concerned when this run ends or when we start to see it go the other way. But right now, I don't think there's enough evidence for us to know exactly what's happening. I just don't. I think we've just got to take it week by week. Are we Palmer FC? Currently, if it wasn't for Cole Palmer, I don't know where we'd be. We'd probably be 8th. And if it wasn't for Cole Palmer last season, then honestly, who knows? Who knows where Chelsea would be? Because, like, there was a point last season without Cole Palmer, I genuinely think we were in a relegation battle, which is nuts. We did exactly Manchester United when we won that game. And I think if you could tweak chaos football enough, I actually think you could be good enough to guarantee that you outscore the opposing team. And I don't think it would be quite Ange ball chaos. You know, I think you could tweak it enough that you could sit back at times, counter-attack. You don't have to sit back as much as like Nottingham Forest. But you know a team that's really good at that sort of type of football is Newcastle. Newcastle are really good. When they get going and that sort of system works, you know what, actually, Eddie Howe would do well with this Chelsea team. Eddie Howe would do well with this Chelsea team. And I actually think he needs to get himself a trophy, Eddie Howe, to start being recognised for what he is as a manager. But I think he could do well. I've got a funny feeling Newcastle might win the League Cup. I've got a funny feeling they might do it. Not guaranteed, but I think they might. We do. I've said this a number of times. Guys, we just hit 30 likes. Really, really appreciate that. We're on the road to 4K as well. We're on the road to 2.5 on TikTok. If you haven't gone over there, if not as well, Twitter, Instagram, make sure to check those out. But what I would say is we need goals from other areas. And Buemo, Anthony Gordon type players that are capable of putting up serious numbers, but they're not the most relied upon player. They're not the Cole Palmer. They're not the striker. They're not the Isak, but they still put up numbers. You know, like we used to have Pedro Willian, but you'd also have like Diego Costa and Eden Hazard. That's what you need to go and win a Premier League title. That's what Arsenal don't currently have, but it's what Liverpool do. Salah puts up the numbers, and then players like Diaz, Jota, Gakpo, they're also putting up numbers. You know, that's what you need. I'm absolutely certain of that. If Newcastle get Mbeumo at start date in May, that would be a great signing for them, you know. He'd thrive, actually. That would be a really good signing. Why are the sporting directors not backing Maresca this January? Genuinely, it's either that we don't have the money to spend, or do they actually think they're not sold on Maresca yet, should they back him? Do you think they think that? That could be a potential. They might think, are we sure on Maresca? Do we want to give him more money for a system that no other manager's going to play if we bring him in? I just think the sporting directors, just because they're so unsure and it's so volatile and it's so all over the place, and this is what I've been saying for ages, no one knows what is happening at Chelsea because it's so volatile. We actually just, as much as it might hold the club back a little bit for like a season or two, we just need it to be steady for a little bit. You know, just calm down and actually get a sense of what players are what. Are these players hits or misses? Do they fit a system we're trying to play? What style of football do we want to play? And answer every question and then start moving forwards. I think right now, every question at Chelsea is currently being left unanswered. Every question that every fan has that always gets asked, no one knows what is going on at Chelsea. I don't think it's clear and obvious the direction the club's heading in, the way we want to play, the type of players we want, the recruitment strategy, the manager and the philosophy they want. I don't think they know. They gave Graham Potter a 7-year contract. He now manages West Ham within that 7 years. Like, what are we? Like, they don't know. They have no idea. So, honestly, if they believe Maresca Ball is the way they want to go forwards, then they have to back him. If they don't back him, then how can they even... I mean, they can't sack him, basically. If you don't back Maresca, unless they genuinely think the team is good enough for Maresca, but I actually don't think it is, because Maresca plays in a way where Nkunku is useless to him. You know, I think Nkunku's a good player, and I could find a way for Nkunku to get in my philosophy of football, but Maresca can't. So you need to go to the board and say, look, I think he's a great player. I really like him, but he's just never going to get in my philosophy of football, my system. It's just not going to happen. So move him on and bring me a striker that I can rotate with Jackson. Bring me a winger without attacking output, not just flair and a bit of creativity. I need someone that puts up numbers efficiently for me. Bring me a midfielder that can do this, box to box, and play in the pocket as a 10. Bring me fullbacks that don't care about overlapping. They just care about being able to play in midfield. And that's then... Oh, honestly, if I had an A badge, I would apply. Of course I would. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Of course I would manage Chelsea in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even with the current sporting directors, because I would talk to them and have the conversation just to know what page we were on. Are you kidding me? Honestly, let's get it started now. Dan for Chelsea manager. Imagine. Maresca wants to... He does. I think Maresca and Arteta are very similar. I think they're very, very similar. They love their wingers being out on the touchline. They love those type of midfielders. They're very... I think Arteta's gone away from it because he wasn't enough in his first 2 seasons, but they were very systematic in the first couple of seasons. I think the way he wants his defence to be, I think they're very, very similar. I think there's similarities there. I really do. I think you can see it. I think you can see it when the 2 teams play. But no, 100%. I would, because I believe that actually having a knowledge and understanding of the club, and then a tactical philosophy that the fans buy into, can help you massively as a manager just kick off on the right foot. I just think it can. I think Lampard had that the first time round, and that's why he was given the time that he was. Ultimately, it all started unfolding for Lampard when the fans weren't there to back him because they were his loudest supporters. But actually, tactically, we've seen now that Lampard falls short of being good enough to be a Premier League manager. But you need the mix, and obviously that's what we've seen the best have at Chelsea. Ancelotti, Conte, Jose. These managers have that, and obviously we haven't had that in a while, but I think someone like Flick would have got what Chelsea was under Roman. I think now, under this new ownership, no one knows what Chelsea is, and that's why it's so confusing. And this is why I'm saying that I don't want to keep seeing managers get sacked. If we're going to stick by Maresca for the next 5 seasons like Arsenal have done with Arteta, then you need to do a better job of backing him than Arsenal have done with Arteta, and I'll buy into it. I'll say, look, all right, stick with Maresca. Let's hope he's going to be good enough and he's going to develop every season, but don't leave him with Nkunku being his sub-striker, because Nkunku don't want to play there. That's no use to Maresca. Go out there, back Maresca. That's what you have to do. But we were linked to Declan Rice, and Declan Rice, I think, without all this going on, would have been a Chelsea player. I think he would have come back. I just think Declan Rice, at one point, had an affinity to Chelsea in his career. And I think, obviously, he had ties to Mason Mount and local area, and I think that helps. But if you're going to back a manager, you have to be sure he's the right guy to back. And ultimately, if you don't give him time, you don't know that. And also, if you hire him off of, and he's inexperienced and there's not enough of a track record to back, you then have to give him time at your club. This is what I mean. It's just such a mess. It just isn't how 90% of teams and clubs would be ran. And that is why it's just no one really knows. Because people don't run their clubs like that. And at the very elite level, they definitely don't. Remember when we didn't want Gordon? Oh, mate, I'll be real, yeah. I'll sit here now and I'll take all the battering for it. I didn't want Gordon. I did not want Anthony Gordon. I know Tuchel wanted him. I didn't see it. I just didn't see what I'm seeing now at Newcastle when he was at Everton. I thought he was good, but I didn't think he was this. And now I look at it and think, imagine we'd got Gordon. He would have been fantastic. But I also think he could have been... I'll say it right now. I don't think Gordon thrives in Maresca's system. I just don't think he does. But I actually think he'll be really important for Tuchel's England. Really do. I can see why Tell would reject us. Absolutely. Why would you leave Bayern? You just wouldn't. I would stay at Bayern even if I was a 19-year-old kid. I wouldn't join. I wouldn't. How can we recover from this mess, but it will take time and spot on recruitment? That's exactly it. It takes time. It actually takes patience. What you have to do is let the chaos calm down. You have to. You keep sacking people, you're never going to get anywhere. You have to let the chaos calm down and then understand where this club is heading, what type of football you want it to play, what the squad currently looks like alongside the style of football. Do players fit into every position that the manager wants his style to look like? If they don't, you move them on. And right now, I think we're seeing that a little bit because he's gone, Dazassi don't fit. This player, Vega, doesn't fit as centre-back for me. Tosin doesn't fit. He's not good enough. But then it's like, why did you buy them if you knew you wanted a Maresca-type manager? Because they didn't know what they wanted. This is what I'm saying. It's just so chaotic that with a little bit more of a calmer approach and just deciding on what you wanted first, you wouldn't be in this issue. If you knew you wanted a manager in who wants his centre-backs to be very, very good on the ball, you'd never spend 45 million on Zassi. You probably wouldn't bring Tosin in because you'd know he just wouldn't be good enough to play in that sort of team. You probably wouldn't bring in... I actually think you probably would sign Badashile, but you'd hope that he'd improve quicker at the rate than he has. You'd actually sign Wesley Fofana, but he's been injured so much, and you probably wouldn't buy a player with that injury history. But do you know what I mean? It's like, if you've got a clear ideology as sporting directors of what you want, and the owners are telling you what they want to see as well, and you kind of follow that, then you can make your decisions. But the fact of the matter is, they've gone here, there, and everywhere with every single piece of recruitment. Managers, scouts, players, like you name it, they've not gone in one straight direction. It's a complete scattergun approach, hoping it all works. That's what it looks like from the outside looking in. They might think they're in this perfect, straight, aligned motion, but I don't think they are. I'd love to sit there and speak to them and actually put me on their page, and then I'd be able to come here and tell you guys exactly what's happening. No brown envelope rubbish or anything like that. Actually just be able to say, this is how the club want to work. This is how they want to run. We need to get on board with it. And right now, I genuinely don't think people know. I just don't think people know. And I think that's why there's a split. Some people blame Maresca, some people blame the players, some people blame the sporting directors. I think this is why, ultimately, it all just comes back onto the sporting directors. Because they are the ones that have the ultimate control in this mess, bar the owners above them. Because it's their direction, the sporting direction we're heading in, is chaotic. Remove the chaos, and we actually might have an idea. But actually, maybe that's why they've built a chaotic squad that just thrives in those individual moments. Maybe that's how we need to play. And actually, they've hit the nail on the head. Yeah, no, it's City going crazy. Look at Damasio, second to last tweet. Really? Fabrizio's on it today, actually. He's been obviously putting stuff up. Man City pushing to sign Cambiasso. Is this the guy? Damasio. Yeah, closing the Cambiasso prepared bid in Juventus. 60 million. This is what I mean, right? City knew there was a rebuild and they had to do it. Like, the City knew there was a rebuild, knew they had to do it. That's exactly what's happened. Here we go. Man City are closing on Andrea Cambiasso and preparing a bid to Juventus in the range of 60-65 million. This is what I mean. City... Okay, so now, for me, City are very clear in the direction they're going to move in. Because it's all very... All right, this season's not been, but it's very calm. They know exactly what they want. Pep knows what he wants. The new sporting director knows what he wants. So they're just gonna move in that direction now, and then that just makes it way easier for everyone to get on the same page. And I just don't think that's where we're at. But look, guys, been an absolute pleasure chatting to every single one of you today. We're gonna wrap it up because we've been live for a while. I genuinely think we'll get through this. We do need additions in January. We'll be here chatting. We'll be here making videos, putting them out, reporting on everything that's coming out of Chelsea. We've got Wolves on Monday. We've got a bit of a break, and I'm kind of hoping in that time there's a little bit of transfer news to kind of lift us out of this little rut that we're in, because it's not great. But if you haven't already, make sure to smash a like. We're over 30 likes. If we get it 40 with everyone tuning in, I think that'd be absolutely unbelievable. Right now, before we go, everyone chuck one name in of who they want Chelsea to sign. One name. Just chuck it in. That's what I want to see. Cunha is back. Cunha's back, and apparently someone said to me Jackson's suspended. I want to know who everyone wants. One name right now you could sign in January. Who would it be? Who would it be? I would sign my number one. I was going to say Osimhen, Daka, because I actually think Osimhen or Duran would be great. I actually think Bringing in a striker lifts everyone. Isak would be fantastic. Gyökeres. Everyone wants a striker. Everyone knows a striker lifts Chelsea. I think it does. I think it does. I think you just pay the money, man. Pay the money. Honestly, Newcastle wouldn't sell it. Cunha's not a bad shout. Cunha would be cool, but I just don't think Wolves sell him right now. I think a striker. I think Osimhen is available. I think you could go get him. I really do. And I don't think Isak is available as much as Osimhen is. Gyökeres, new directors. Araujo's a shout. He's injury prone, isn't he, though, if you're on about the one from Barcelona. But I do think he's a good player. I do think he'd actually really suit, really would suit Maresca's style of football, actually. I think he'd be really good. But look, guys, we're going to wrap it. Thank you for everyone tuning in. Like I said, make sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 4K. Check me out on all the other socials, TikTok, Instagram. I'm on them. I'm really active on them as well, Twitter. And I will see you all in a bit. Make sure to like the video if you haven't already. But thank you so much for tuning in. It's going to be okay. It is going to be okay, Chelsea fans. I promise you, we will be all right. I'll see you all in a bit.